Hi there everybody. In this video we're going to take a look at how to create a graphical user interface using the NetBeans IDE. So we're actually going to make programs that have user interfaces, that have text boxes and buttons, and it's a lot of fun. Right now, make sure that you follow along. Try to pick up as much as you can. The nice thing is you can watch these videos as many times as you want, and then there'll be some resources that will help you step you through this as well. So just going to show you sort of the big picture. So we're going to do like we usually do, File, New Project, and Java Application. But on this screen it's a little bit different. So I'm going to call this FirstGUI, and usually this box is checked to create a main class. We're actually going to uncheck that so that it doesn't create a main class, and we'll talk about what that means a little bit later. So I've loaded it up and I've got my project here, FirstGUI, and I click under source packages and there's no main class. So I'm going to right click on source packages and I'm going to create a new JFrame form. So it's right here, JFrame form. If it's not there, you can click other and you'll get a list of a whole bunch, but we want a JFrame form. And I'm going to give my JFrame a name. So I'm going to call it FRM my form, and you'll see the FRM means it's a form, so I just like to name it using that naming convention, FRM. So FRM my form, and finish. And this is basically the form that's going to show up when I run my program. So this is called a form. You realize we have a lot of new things over here. We have these, it's called the swing containers, so all of the things that we can add to our frame. And importantly, we have a properties window, and I'll show you that in just 1 minute. I'm going to shrink down our output because we're no longer going to have output in the console. We're now actually going to have the form load up when we run our program. So let's drag a few things out. We're going to have a label. I'm going to put that right here. I'm going to drag a button out. I'm going to put that right here. I'm going to have a couple of text fields, and I'm going to have a few other labels as well. I'll drag all those out there. So as you can see, I can click on each of the things that I've dragged onto my form. I'm in design mode here. I can click on this text field, this button, and all of the properties change. So for example, if I want to change the properties of this label, then I'll click on the label and I can change the text color if I'd like. And you can start experimenting with this and scroll all the way down and see all of the things that we can change. So you can change things in the properties. We're also able to change things if I right click. I can say edit text, or I can change variable names, and that's what we're going to start doing here. So I'm going to right click on this label here, JLabel2, and I'm going to edit text, and I'm going to actually make it say first number. So that's sort of a label for this text field. And I'm also going to rename this. So I'm going to change this variable name. This is a label, so I'm going to be calling it LBL first num. So all labels start LBL. And I'm going to do the same with this label. So this one's going to be for our second one. So I'll call it LBL second num. And I'm going to change the text here and call it second number. I should be consistent. So those are my two labels, and this is where I'm going to enter the first number and the second number, and we're actually going to add two numbers up by pressing the button. On this text field here, I'm going to edit the text, and I'm going to get rid of the text so that there's nothing in the box. You see the text field automatically shortens, and I'm just going to stretch that out so that it stays that size. I'm also going to change the name of this to TXT, because it's the text box, first num. I'll do the same for our second one. Make sure I lengthen these so that they're the same size. And again, I want to change the variable name, txt. Call this one second num. I'm going to do the same with our button. So I'm going to edit the text, and I'm going to say this button's going to be labeled add. And I'm going to change the variable name as well. This is a button, so it goes btn add. And this is where we're going to output our answer. So I'll change the variable name, it's a label, call this answer, and change the text as well to answer. So this is going to be my form. I'm going to spend a bit of time centering things. I won't do too much of that. We could change font colors and things, but for the sake of this video, we'll just sort of speed through it. And now it's time to add some code. So I've got my text fields, and I've got my labels and a button. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on the add button, and it's going to take me to this source window. So if I double click on this button, it takes me to source, and it says button add action performed. So it's basically saying when that button is clicked, this is the code that I'd like to execute. It says to do, so add your handling code here. So I'm going to get rid of that line, leave some spaces, and basically anything between these two highlighted text boxes here, that's where the code is actually going to go. So I'm going to do a few things. First, I'm going to create some integers. So I'm going to create int num1, int num2, and answer. And then it's time to actually grab the information. So what I want it to do is when that button is clicked, I want it to grab the information from the text box. So I'm going to say num1 equals txt, because that was my text box, and I believe I called it first num dot get text. And what that's going to do is it's going to get the information from txt first number. But there's a problem. It says incompatible types, string cannot be converted to an int. And what that means is when you bring information in from a text box, it's actually being brought in as a string. And we want it to actually be an integer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of code here, integer.parseInt, and I'm actually going to turn that string into an integer. The nice thing is I can highlight this, copy and paste, and I'll bring in second num here. And so I'm going to bring in first number and second number. We know from previous lessons that in order to add these up, we just have to do num1 plus num2. And now all that's left is to actually display this answer in that last label that we had that we called LBL answer. So I'm going to say LBL answer dot set text, and I'm going to take, remember this is an integer right now, answer is an integer, so I want to turn it back into a string, and it is happy with that. So that is a lot of code. That was a lot thrown at you, but we can quickly go back through the steps. We've created our variable for num1, num2, and answer. We've grabbed num1 from the text box and turned it into an integer. We've grabbed num2 from the second text box, turned it into an integer, added them up. We've taken the answer, turned it back into a string, and sent it out in the label. So if I run this program, we'll say, okay, run my form. And there it is. It is beautiful. So I can add my first number in here. We'll go 15. My second number in here, 35. And I have my fingers crossed. I'm hoping when I click add, then our answer will appear right here. Beautiful. So that is a lot of information. We're going to review all of that throughout this lesson, and then you'll be building your own forms in no time.